Now we need to set the texture for the NIF. Open the NIF that we just exported using NifScope. If you're installing NifScope for the first time, you'll need to set up the resource folder for the Skyrim game. If it can't automatically detect the game's path, then you'll need to manually add the game's folder or register your game. To quickly get the work done, you can use any valid NIF file and copy its bodysliding shader property into your own NIF file. Clicking on the bodysliding shader property will show the shader type, and clothes typically use environment map materials. Select bodysliding shader property, press Ctrl C to copy the node, select the nitrate shape of the mesh, press Ctrl V to paste the node. The NF I exported before was for old Skyrim, so I need to use SSE NIF Optimizer to convert the NIF to the SE. Now, let's open the root directory of the game and create the mesh and texture folders for the clothes. If the clothes have different types of materials, you can create different folders to sort them out so that your brain will not burn out. Now let's open the textures of the DAZ clothes folder and slowly convert them into Skyrim textures one by one. You can set the default opening software of NIF like this. Copy the path of your NifScope installation, open the property setting of the NIF file, and change the default software for NIF files. Open the NIF file for the clothes and use it as a preview for your texture conversion. First, delete the bodysliding shader from the outer mesh so it's easier to see the preview of the model's textures inside. Double-click to open the bodysliding shader sublayer, and you can see all the texture settings for this material. If your mesh isn't displaying textures, you need to set the game resource path in NifScope. Open the texture folder for DAZ clothing, import the texture of one clothing into Photoshop, and you can drag and drop the images one by one into a file window according to their names. You have to drag them in one by one, not all at once into Photoshop. If you can't figure out which texture image corresponds to the mesh, you can export the UV image of this mesh in NifScope and then drag it into Photoshop. That way, you'll know if the image you chose matches this mesh. Hold down the Alt key and drag the adjustment border of the image, zoom it in to the edge of the image. If the image you drag in Photoshop is not in transform mode by default, you can hold down the Ctrl T to resize the image, all the hotkey in the video that are frequently used. There's a little icon at the bottom right of the thumbnail in the layer. It means this layer is a smart object. Adjusting the smart object layer won't destroy the original image. If you don't know how to use it, you can rasterize it. You can check if the picture matches the UV layout. Use hotkey Ctrl I to invert the colors of the image. The materials of the clothes in Skyrim are generally categorized as color, normal map, environment mask, and environment texture. You don't need to make the environment texture because it's a universal texture used for virtual reflections in the environment. Now let's make the texture of the color because it's just a simple texture conversion. So don't expect too much in terms of the quality of the texture you're converting. Delicate textures require a lot of design and making time. Because the colors of PBR textures generally lack depth, you can overlay it with normal textures to give them a fake 3D effect. Hold down the Ctrl-Shift-U keys to desaturate the normal textures. Set the blend mode of the layer to soft light. Use the combo key, Ctrl-L, to pop up the levels adjustment. No matter how you adjust it, all you gotta do is make the image you see more three-dimensional. You need to know what type of material the target is, such as it's a shiny and smooth black leather material. Then the color texture needs to be deeper, but at least you still see shadows, inherent color, and highlights in the black texture. The process is actually no different from painting. You can create a separate folder for color, normal, and environment masks. Select the layer and use the shortcut Ctrl G to create a layer group. That way, it won't fry your brain. When you're done creating the color texture, use flatten image to merge all the layers into one background layer and then save the image as a DDS format. Before you use DDS export, you need to install NVIDIA Texture Tools for Photoshop. There's an official download link below the video. No matter which version of Skyrim, you can always save textures as BC3 in the pop-up NVIDIA Texture Tools panel. BC3 will save the DD's texture with an alpha channel. In the pop-up NVIDIA Texture Tools panel, all you need to do is change the format, image type, and compression effort. Typically, just select the BC3 format and leave everything else as default. Now let's make the normal map. Use the shortcut Ctrl-Z to go back to the previous layout. We can use rough texture as the alpha channel for the normal map. So what's the principle behind this? Situation 1. If the normal channel is 100% white, the surface of the clothing will shine like the surface of water. Just imagine that. Situation 2. If the normal channel is 100% black, then the surface of the clothes will appear matte like a semi-glossy paper. So the strength of the white represents the degree of brightness. The black lines in the texture represent the path of the stitching. Stitching is usually rough, so it's black, and most of the surface is bright leather, so the other areas should be light in color. Now open the channel, randomly choose a color channel, and select Duplicate Channel from the menu that pops up with the right mouse button. In the pop-up Duplicate Channel panel, choose New. Then in the newly created channel, select Duplicate Channel from the menu that pops up with the right mouse button. This time, we'll copy the alpha channel into the texture layers channel. After copying to the texture channel, there will be an alpha 1 channel displayed. Now you have successfully completed this process. Now we'll flatten the image and save the finished normal map as BC3. Now we're going to make an environment mask. What does an environment mask do? First, you need to understand what environmental texture is. In Skyrim, environmental texture serves as the reflection of the fake environment. It's different from glossiness, it's specular reflection. Normal glossiness can't show reflections like glass and stainless steel, so that's where environmental texture comes in. The environment mask is colorless, 100% white, represents maximum reflection power, 100% black represents no reflection. Environmental texture will be turned off. Assuming the clothes I need to make are black specular leather, so I need to choose a cube map that's similar to high contrast and then rely on environment masking to create some reflection texture on the surface. This texture can be used in PBR rendering engine, but it won't work better in Skyrim, so we can still use a rough texture to make the environmental mask. By editing a rough texture with levels, you can increase the contrast of the texture to make the specular texture more obvious. Environmental masks usually don't need large texture sizes. Try to keep its size within 2048 pixels. You can save it in BC1 format, which has no alpha channel. Environmental masks don't need alpha channels. QMap is virtual environment reflection texture. You can find them in video resources. Mostly they come with the game textures. You can also make them yourself. Copy the texture path you created in the game's texture folder into the NIF material settings and see the material preview in NIF scope. Before saving the textures, use the combination key Ctrl-Shift-I to set the size of the texture. Use percentages to adjust the size of the texture. The size of the DD's texture needs to be a multiple of 64.